Hello everyone and welcome to Afro Lens. So a few months ago, Disney Plus finally came out with Proud Family Louder and Prouder, a revival series of their original Proud Family. For those who didn't grow up watching early 2000s cartoons, The Proud Family was a Disney cartoon sitcom that centered around the main protagonist Penny Proud. The show focused on her and all the wacky adventures her family, and her friends get themselves into. It was one of the few cartoons at the time that centered around a Black protagonist and even highlighted Black cultural trends. There weren't too many cartoons that did highlight these trends, but if there were, then Black people were usually in the background. At best, they were the best friend characters. Needless to say, Proud Family holds a special place in a lot of our hearts. Now, does that mean it was the most culturally sensitive show? Well, it was an early 2000s cartoon, so while there were some pretty progressive topics discussed, we also got some oof moments. With the influx of many shows coming back as revivals, a lot of fans come across the question, does this need to be revived? Some writing material that was quote-unquote acceptable back in the day was still in poor taste, and they still don't translate well in modern days. Not only that, but we just don't need to be reviving or making spin-offs of every show. Y'all wonder why people been saying TV hasn't been original or creative for how many years now? Anyways, you can imagine a lot of our internal conflicts upon hearing the Proud Family's revival. I've watched all the current episodes as of late, but I'm only going to cover this first episode for now. I just have a lot more to say about it compared to the other episodes. Disclosure, I'm not trying to convince y'all to either watch or not watch this show. These are just some of my personal thoughts I wanted to share, but before that, let's just go over the overall premise of this first episode. We start off our first episode with this sort of 16 wishes magic thing where all our favorite characters essentially age, at least physically. Apparently Penny and the rest are still 14 and still go to middle school like in the original show. We see most of the gang, they react a bit to their changed bodies. We get some unneeded, haha, this girl is growing hair and pimples and we gotta laugh at her for it moments. Again, if you didn't grow up on this cartoon, just know that these are some of the worst group of friends. They are very mean to each other, you just gotta get used to it. Good? Okay. So the group goes to see one of their friends, Sticky, but before that, the group encounters the Gross Sisters, the trio that many of us hope would not appear in this new show. I'll get into them later, but for quick reference, the Gross Sisters are the bullies who threaten everyone just to take their money. They are blue because they are supposed to be ashy. So anyways, the group arrives at Sticky's house only to find out he bounced. Like right there. Really left his friends like that just to get away from Dejanay. Understandable, but that was a pretty harsh way to send off a character. So yeah, Sticky gone for what seems to be indefinitely. He and his family did, however, leave the house in care of his extended family. Here we meet our new characters, Maya and KG. What's their deal? Well, KG became Dejanay's new crush to obsess over real fast. He is also shown to be quite the tech whiz, so here's y'all's Sticky 2.0, I guess. Now what about Maya? Well, she's the new dark-skinned black girl who's supposedly there to add some positive rep to the cast, so one would think she's got to be introduced in some likable manner, at least, right? I guess not, cause girl immediately has beef with Penny. Why? Because just by glancing at her, she can tell that Penny and her friends are superficial. Which, yeah, they most definitely are, I can't argue with that. But anyways, this shook Penny to the core, because how could someone not like her? She's Penny Proud. Everyone is supposed to like her. She has never had an issue of people not liking her, thus never having experience on how to handle such a foreign concept. Oh, however will she deal with this conundrum? Most of the episode at that point is Penny trying to win Maya's approval. A lot of the attempts, though, were embarrassing fails. Finally, a proper opportunity arose when Penny agrees to meet Maya at the zoo for this demonstration. It was during the school dance, so Penny figures protesting instead of going to the dance will prove she can be more than this bratty, superficial girl. So at the dance, Penny sneaks out of it and goes meet Maya at the zoo. Penny is surprised it's only just them, is even more surprised to find out the actual plan was to break a panda out. Against better judgment, the two do break in, and here we get our first celebrity guest star of the series, CeeLo Green, playing as Shuggie the bear. Shuggie enchants the two in a very whimsical number for some reason, but once the girls snap out of it, they attempt to move the bear. Where exactly? I don't know. As Maya tries to convince Shuggie he needs to be freed, Penny seems to be the only one amazed that the bear is talking. Whether Maya is able to understand Shuggie or not is, in my opinion, still vague here, which I'll get into later. The two continue trying to force Shuggie to move, but Shuggie, being a panda, expresses he does not care to go back to the wild. He's very content where he's at and, well, looking at his crib, fair enough. That was enough for Penny to drop this. Maya, on the other hand, was still persistent. The two bicker a bit, and just when Penny's about to succumb to peer pressure again, she finally develops a backbone this episode. She calls out Maya for not listening to Shuggie, and also being superficial with her fake progressive outlook on everything and everyone she just does not like. With that, Penny leaves Maya and goes back to enjoy the school dance. All is good. Up until Penny's father shows up. Oh, right, I forgot to mention this whole B-plot. Basically, Penny's father does everything in his power to prevent Penny from growing up. Got it? Good, moving on. Luckily, Penny found her backbone again and forces her father to have an actual talk about her growing up and for him to accept she's dealing with changes that he just needs to be supportive of as a parental figure. But yeah, they hug, come to an understanding, at least for that moment, and the episode ends with Penny having a great time at the dance. Alright, actual review time. Right off the bat, I don't get the whole aging premise here. When I watched the trailers, they very much alluded to this idea that Penny and the gang were at least in high school, but nope. Apparently they are all still middle schoolers, which I guess makes sense considering the twins don't seem to have aged that much. And look, I get it, they needed to update slang and trends since it's no longer the early 2000s. The thing is, none of these characters seem to react as much over the idea of being essentially thrown forward in time out of nowhere. Like I said, they did react to their changed bodies. The characters acknowledged something weird happened the night before. But that's about it, just some puberty jokes. Not many reactions to their new environment or the new celebrities. They don't even seem bothered with everyone else's lack of reactions in this new reality. It just makes the whole magic trope going on here not grounded in anything. Which is odd because in the original show, they've often done similar premises and usually executed them well. But whatever, I'm guessing it's not that important here. Moving on, let's see, the Gross Sisters. Like I said, they are the ashy bullies of the show. The reason a lot of us didn't want to see them again was because this is very much intentional to be colorist against dark-skinned black people. It's also xenophobic considering their whole family are Jamaican. I don't even know why they did this in the first place. I doubt a lot of children watched this show and figured they were blue because they were ashy. For me, I thought they purposely painted themselves blue. Here's the other thing that bothers me about the Gross Sisters in this revival. In the original, the reason they are ashy is because their family are poor and couldn't afford lotion. But apparently, in this new show, the Gross Sisters are loaded. They dropped an album, got to know all the top people in the music industry, and now live in a nice house, so why are they still ashy? The joke no longer works. It never did, but even context-wise, this doesn't make sense to include anymore. Fine, let them remain bullies, but at least fix their skin. It's just, with Dejanay being the only other dark-skinned black girl of the original cast, there really wasn't a great lineup of dark-skinned black girl characters in this show. I love Penny, I really do, but the girl is light-skinned. Light-skinned black girls always get the more positive depictions. I'm tired of this idea that dark-skinned black girls can only be included if they are loud, obnoxious, mean, leeching off of others, all that. It's something many fans have expressed disappointment for this show. Black kids don't need to be exposed to this colorist. We're already dealing with regular racism, so why would you feed into this? Whatever, I guess the creators for this revival figured, oh, let's at least make a new dark-skinned black girl character that doesn't act like the rest just so we can appear progressive for this new generation. And that's where Maya comes in. When I saw her in the trailers, I was intrigued about this one. Her design is cool and she definitely looked to be part of the main group at least. Does she hold up though? Well, going by this first episode, not really. She gets better in later episodes, but let's just talk about her first introduction here and why I think they set this character up for failure here. So Maya is described as an activist character, which I'll just say we really didn't need. While these sort of characters can be entertaining at times, they can also come across pretty insulting for young activists. They tried to make her into this comical Huey, but it don't hit the same. If anything, these characters frame any form of activism as people just being bitter attention seekers. The other thing that bothered me with the activist characterization is that was already Penny's thing. Like, the girl broke gender norms, ended segregation in her school, and helped rescue a circus tiger and bring it back to its home. Speaking of Penny rescuing a circus tiger, why would they make her a punk over breaking into a zoo and freeing a panda? That sounds exactly in her lane. And they definitely remember Penny having this interaction with the tiger, because they brought back her speaking to animal superpower here, which I will say makes me look at this entire scene differently. This is more of my personal headcanon here, but I truly believe that Maya had no clue what was going on in this scene. We, as an audience, are supposed to view this as Maya denying that Shuggy has his own opinions, and Penny, being the true progressive girl here, gotta call out Maya for it. But if you ask me, it really sounds as though Penny is the only one who can understand the bear. Maya's reactions make it seem she couldn't understand whatever Shuggy was saying. Like, she made no mention of the bear talking, and even when she claims Shuggy doesn't know what he wants, she doesn't acknowledge that he literally says this to her, just responds directly to Penny's comments. And if that was the case, she wasn't trying to ignore Shuggy, she just hears... Look, I know some of the charm of Proud Family is that they take these characters and make them pretty realistic in terms of people being selfish and mean at times. Some a bit more than others. I know a lot of us want to see these perfect friendships on TV, but let's face it, that's what we personally want out of life. But reality is, some of y'all hang out with the meanest people, even as adults. Some of y'all are the meanest person in your group. I don't know, that's just something y'all need to check for yourselves, but anyways, yeah, that's something I do admire of this show. Not all friendships are exactly the greatest, and some of it do be superficial. But this is Maya's debut episode. She was supposed to be the more positive rep for dark-skinned black girls in the show, and they did not give her that justice, at least not in this episode. It takes a few episodes for the series to make her likable, but I don't know, it just still doesn't undo the damage of what they did to her character in this first. They could have at least done something to make her a bit likable at the end. Apologizing to Penny? explaining she had no idea Shuggy was talking to Penny, acknowledging Penny can get real and everyone has their moments of being phony, including her. I don't know, just something. Something other than rude, mean, dark-skinned black girl here. But don't get me wrong, I don't hate Maya's characterization, but it did seem for a moment that I was going to hate this character for like the first maybe 3 episodes. Luckily they fixed that, but yeah. Okay, so woo! That was a whole bunch of negatives for this first episode. Although it does get better later on, it's just, this wasn't a great opening to the series. But was there anything I did enjoy? Yes, actually. Let's see, I love Michael. Michael's fun, and he continues to have the best sense in fashion and choreography. I'm glad they included him into the main group now. In the original, he was just the flamboyant gay-coded character that occasionally appeared for laughs. Here though, he's a very active character that isn't pushed to the sidelines and very much involved in the plot, and again, great sense of fashion. I kinda dig the new art style. It's more visually vibrant. Unfortunately, I don't think a lot of the slapstick hits the same as it did back then, but still, the shading is nice and the brown characters at least don't have this weird gray undertone to them. Also, I'm just tired of the same animation style we get nowadays. Like, I'm really desperate for anything new like this. I'm glad Penny stood up against her father, cause he was really pushing it this episode. No, it is not cute when a father character is obsessed with how his daughter chooses to express her changing, aging body. We see how that toxic behavior leads to. I do hope they have an episode where Oscar acknowledges that this sort of parenting is misogynistic, because we know Oscar is the type of guy who wouldn't flip seeing his son start dating. Not only does this prohibit the daughters from socializing, this neglects the son's needs. Also, y'all know that Oscar is a stubborn man that never truly takes this stuff to heart. They'll be having this conversation again at some point, you know they will. But yeah, so what is my overall rating of this episode? Personally, I give it an 8.5 out of 10. Proud snacks. Like I said, this wasn't the strongest start for a revival series, at least in my opinion. It kind of reaffirms the reasons why some shows just shouldn't be revived. Now, this isn't me saying future episodes aren't going to get better, or that you shouldn't watch the show at all. It's kind of frustrating seeing this show that you used to watch as a kid, and you kind of just cringe over the comments and jokes they make now that you better understand the social implications of them. I do see some effort into making this show better than it can be. The humor is there. There are just moments where you can tell the creators are still trying to obtain that old school humor and mix it with the current progressive politics, and sometimes it's just a bit of a mess. So, yeah, I don't blame people, especially other black folk, for not being comfortable or really getting into this revival. It's very much a product of its time. I still think the show has potential to be better than it can be in this regard. Like, the writers should at least consult with sound sensitivity readers before going into production. That should do it. And no, you don't need to risk losing any of the charm of the original storyline by doing so. These characters are plenty entertaining as they are. Y'all don't need to fall back on these stereotypes just to force out a laugh. One thing I am grateful though is that they didn't turn this revival into some angsty, edgy, dark teen drama thing. We don't need any more of that. So yeah, that's about it. I actually wanted to do a review on the entire season, but the final episode still hasn't come out yet. Also, I realized that my review for the first episode is pretty long, so I don't know if I will be able to make a review of the entire series. If I do, I'll probably not explain the whole premise of each episode like I did here. If you made it this far though, awesome. I really appreciate it, actually. If you're feeling a bit generous though, my Ko-fi link is in the description box below. Thanks for watching, and bye!